You know, they leaked classified intelligence. They lied to the American people. They tried to steal credit from our brave pilots who just pulled off the most devastating military strike in modern history. This is unlike anything that any civilization in human history has ever seen before. The Communist News Network and the New York Slimes are desperately spinning defeat from total victory because they can't stand that Trump just eliminated Iran's nuclear threat in just a couple hours. But the evidence is overwhelming. The bombs hit perfectly. It was like shooting a bullet inside of a sphincter from 240 miles away. And then three of them hit the bullseye perfectly. The facilities are obliterated. Iran's nuclear dreams are buried under millions of tons of rubble. And now the same media that called Hunter's laptop Russian disinformation, they want you to believe that Iran's nuclear program is just fine, that they're going to regenerate like a ChatGPT in just a couple months. They're not just wrong, they're basically committing treason. Wait until you see what really happened under those mountains. The truth will blow your mind. Now, just as Trump's military strikes turned back the clock on Iran's nuclear program, you can turn back the clock on aging with collagen. By 40, your body's collagen production drops significantly. That means wrinkles, saggy skin, crow's feet, joint pain. But there's a solution as powerful as those rubber baby bunker busters. Ageless multi-collagen delivers 5 key types of collagen from 4 premium sources, all hydrolyzed for maximum absorption. No clumping, no taste, just simple results. While Trump obliterates nuclear threats, obliterate the signs of aging. Get 51% off at healthwithgary.com. Plus, every order feeds a hungry child through nokidhungry.org. Your skin and your country both deserve strength. Now, just like collagen rebuilds your skin's foundation, Trump destroyed Iran's nuclear foundation permanently. And the media can't handle the truth. Let's start with what actually happened. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, love me some Rubio. He laid out the surgical precision of Trump's strikes. 3 specific targets, no regime change, just pure focus on eliminating the nuclear threat. Watch him explain the mission that changed everything.
The goal the president set out was 3 nuclear sites. He targeted them. He says, I want a one-off campaign in which we go in, hit 3 nuclear sites, hit them hard, and get out without any loss of life. And the mission was achieved, and without any escalation. And the mission was achieved. The truth of the matter is that happened on Saturday night. By Monday night, we had a ceasefire, so 48 hours later. So not only did this bold move by the president, and he deserves a tremendous amount of credit for taking this bold move, not only did this bold move have impact, but I actually think it helped end the conflict. It allowed Israel to say, okay, now the objectives that we wanted to see out of this operation have been achieved. And I think the president deserves a lot of credit. He had a defined mission. So this is what we're going to do. We're hitting 3 targets. We're not hitting regime people. We're not trying to overthrow the government. We're not looking to invade. We're going to hit our problem with Iran is with the nuclear program. We're going to hit the 3 sites that we've been negotiating over, and then we're going to move off the mark. And that's what we did.
Our problem with Iran is the nuclear program. And Trump solved that problem with devastating efficiency. Unfreaking believable. Guy's a master. You know, the technical details are staggering. Rubio revealed exactly what those 30,000-pound bunker busters accomplished. 12 massive bombs dropped with a pinpoint accuracy into underground facilities. Watch him demolish any doubt about the mission's success.
In Esfahan, there was this conversion site, which is how you turn this metal into something that's useful. That's wiped out. You can rebuild anything that's destroyed. You could if you wanted to, but it's completely wiped out. And so they can't do that today. Beyond that, all of the support structures around it as well. In Natanz, which is also an underground facility, that had already been destroyed. Basically, the Israelis have put a lot of damage on it. And then the United States went in with 2 additional heavy munitions that penetrated into the ground and did more damage. So it was already in bad shape and unusable, and now it's worse off. The hard one, the one that was really difficult, is Fordo, because it's buried underneath a mountain at about 200 to 300 meters underground, and meters or feet, I forget, 300 underground. It was deep. And there's no doubt in our minds it's very significant, substantial, lasting damage was done to their program. We will learn more and more about it, but the baseline is real damage was done. Of that, we're very confident. We dropped 12 of these things into these holes. I mean, it's not like we just did a couple and see how it went.
What an incredible operation. This is like Luke Skywalker destroying the Death Star. Unfortunately, Mark Hamill, the guy who played Luke Skywalker, turned out to be the most hardcore, repugnant liberals, like the most demagogic liberal that you could even imagine. But what we did in real life was what he did in the movies. We dropped 12 of these things into these holes. Isfahan's conversion facility completely wiped out. Natanz buried under rubble. Fordow, catastrophic damage 300 feet underground. But within hours, CNN published illegally leaked classified intelligence trying to downplay this historic victory. Watch Secretary Rubio expose their treasonous game of using criminal leakers to push this anti-Trump propaganda. Take a look.
CNN and the New York Times are reporting that early intel suggests Iranian nuclear facilities were not completely destroyed, and the Times is reporting that the nuclear program was only set back a matter of months. Now, look, I know it's obviously quite early. The president is vehemently denying the veracity of these reports, but can you give us, now that we've had a little bit of distance, the latest battle damage assessment?
Well, I can't talk to you about intelligence. I can also tell you that intelligence leaks are one of the most frustrating things anywhere, not just because you got somebody who has access to this putting stuff out there, but because it's so often mischaracterized. An intelligence report, for anyone who's ever seen it, sometimes is an assessment. Some analyst will make an assessment, or analysts will make an assessment. And in these leaks, what you typically have is someone who read it and then leaks it to the media, giving it the spin and the angle they want it to have because they've got some purpose. Embarrass the administration, they were against the action, whatever it may be. Let me tell you this. The Iranian program, the nuclear program today, looks nothing like it did just a week ago. The program today has been set behind significantly from where it was a week ago. It is in far worse shape today than it was a week ago because of U.S. actions and because some of the actions the Israelis took. So the bottom line is they are much further away from a nuclear weapon today than they were before the president took this bold action. That's the most important thing to understand. Significant, very significant, substantial damage was done to a variety of different components, and we're just learning more about it. Understand that most of the damage that occurred here in Fordo occurred deep underground. That's why we use penetrator weaponry to do that. So that's why I hate commenting on these stories, because often the first story is wrong and the person putting it out there has an agenda. And I would say that story is a false story, and it's one that really shouldn't be re-reported because it doesn't accurately reflect what's happening.
The Communist News Network never ceases to disgust me. You know, that is a false story. CNN lies, exposed by the Secretary of State himself. Now, the president was furious about the ceasefire violations, but his anger turned into action. I mean, he just had to sleep it off, you know? The guy must be tired. You watch Trump explain how he personally intervened to maintain peace while calling out the media's attempts to undermine this amazing victory. Take a look.
To last forever, then both sides violated it. Iran broke the truce first, and then Israel hit back. Trump found out about it right before he left for Holland, and he wasn't even this mad after he got shot.
When I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
On Air Force One, he dialed Netanyahu and barked at him. Sources say Trump was really angry, told him to knock it off. Unlike Biden, when Trump says don't, people listen. And the ceasefire's held since then. Iran's at its weakest point since the 80s. And Israel just cleaned out their whole neighborhood, and they should probably take the win. The question is, does Israel disobey Trump and assassinate the Ayatollah? Does he get cooed? Or does he remain in power?
Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
No. If there was, there was. But no, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible.
You know, bunker busters are not the only thing that Trump is dropping. I mean, he's also dropping F-bombs as well as gigantic bunker buster bombs. You know, when Trump says, don't, people listen. You know, that's the difference between strength and the weakness in the Oval Office. Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt didn't hold back when confronting these lies. Watch her destroy the Communist News Network's narrative and reveal the FBI's investigation into these treasonous leaks. And that's what it is. It's treason.
I'd like to take a step back and just acknowledge the history that has been made in the course of the last week, thanks to President Trump's strength. 5 days ago, the rogue Iranian regime possessed the capability to create a nuclear weapon that threatened the United States, the state of Israel, and the entire world. And presidents for decades have said, dating back to Bill Clinton, that Iran cannot possess a nuclear weapon. And because of the decisive leadership of President Trump and the skill and the excellence of our United States military, that imminent threat to the United States and the world has been demolished because of the successful operation on Saturday night. And not only that, but within the span of 48 hours, President Trump was able to turn around and negotiate a successful ceasefire between Israel and Iran, ending this war after just 12 days. No other president in history could have ever dreamed of such a success, and that's exactly why the fake news media is now trying to demean and undermine the president. And we've seen this playbook be run before. You have hostile actors within the intelligence community who illegally leak bits and pieces of an intelligence assessment to push a fake news narrative. And that's what the CNN story was yesterday. And it's not a coincidence that it was written by the exact same CNN reporter who wrote the original story, falsely alleging that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. The American public are smarter than this, and they should know the truth. President Trump completely and totally obliterated the capability of Iran to produce a nuclear weapon, and the world is safer today because of his historic efforts.
All right, we need some love in the chat for our amazing, gorgeous press secretary, Karoline Leavitt. She is the best press secretary that I have seen in my entire lifetime. Never seen one better than her. She is doing a bang-up job. She's totally crushing it. I'm extremely impressed. This was such a good pick. You know, the FBI is now investigating these criminal leaks. Watch as the press secretary, our amazing press secretary, confirm that justice is coming for those who betrayed America to hurt Trump. Take a look.
I am told by the FBI the leak already is being investigated, and it absolutely should be, because this was a top secret intelligence analysis that very few people in the United States government had access to see. And so I understand the FBI and the Department of Justice are already on this, as they should be.
Now, Trump himself unleashed on social media these scum who are trying to steal credit from our brave pilots. Watch the president defend our military heroes from the Communist News Network's disgusting, deplorable attacks.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
If the Iranians do rebuild, would the United States...
If they rebuild?
Would the United States strike again? And I've also a question about Russia.
But I'm not going to have to worry about that. It's gone for years. It's very tough to rebuild because the whole thing has collapsed. In other words, inside, it's all collapsed. Nobody can get in to see it because it's collapsed. You can't go in to see a room that has, 10 million tons of rock in it. And the tunnels are totally collapsed.
But if they rebuild?
Well, they've already looked at the tunnels. This was an unbelievable hit by genius pilots and genius people in the military, and they're not being given credit for it because we have scum that's in this group, and not all of you are. You have some great reporters, but you have scum. CNN is scum. MSDNC is scum. The New York Times is scum. They're bad people. They're sick. And what they've done is they're trying to make this unbelievable victory into something less. Now, even they admit that it was hit very hard, okay? But it wasn't hit hard. It was hit brutally, and it knocked it out. The original word that I use, I guess it got us in trouble because it's a strong word. It was obliteration. And you'll see that. And it's going to come out. Israel is doing a report on it now, I understand. And I was told that they said it was total obliteration. You know, they have guys that go in there after the hit. And they say it was total obliteration. And, you know, I don't want it for me. I want it for the pilots. I want it for the military. They did such a good job. If you were in the Situation Room with me, with the generals and all of the people that did such a good job, and then they get demeaned by these idiots at CNN who can't get ratings, the place is dying, nobody wants to even waste their time going on their shows. So they form with the New York Times, who's dying also. Without Trump, you wouldn't have a New York Times.
I was waiting for the end of that clip, but he made the point. You know, it's really funny how CNN sits there and plays these clips of Trump, like just totally bashing them, like CNN is scum. It's right there on CNN. The chyron is right there. But even they know that without Trump, it would just be a bunch of audio and video gear, like collecting dust in a warehouse somewhere. The only reason they're even still around is because they have Trump to talk about, which is like the total irony of this thing. Like, I mean, God forbid they actually support the guy or promote some of the things that he does, even the things that are good for America. They don't want that. And listen, this is the wild turn of events. You know, the press secretary delivered a final blow to CNN's fake news. Watch her confirm that even Iran and Israel agree Trump's strikes were devastatingly successful.
This was a low-confidence preliminary intelligence assessment. The assessment itself said that it was not corroborated by anyone else in the intelligence community, and it has been disputed by not just the United States, the President, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, our Joint Chiefs, and our General Kane, who was incredibly successful in this mission on Saturday night. It was also disputed by both Israel and Iran, and CNN didn't care about that. The DIA themselves have now come out and said this was a preliminary report, and this CNN story got it completely wrong. But that reporter is a sheep, and she's a mouthpiece for people who don't like Donald Trump. And she only gave the White House an hour to respond. And that's, again, the same playbook we've seen the fake news media play time and time again. But this story has now been debunked widely by not just the United States, but also Iran and Israel as well.
How can you not watch this woman work and not be smiling from ear to ear? What an amazing pick. I mean, even radical Muslims understand American strength at this point. Watch this shocking admission about what some would do if given power in America. Take a look.
Is that what we as Muslims want to implement here in the United States? We believe the Constitution should be replaced by the Quran.
First move that I will do, I will abolish the Constitution and I will establish the only logical and rational constitution, which is the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
When it comes to spreading Islam on a state level, on a societal level, that method prescribed is jihad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed that the ones who don't accept the ruling of Islam, they must be fought. This is simply the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Listen, this goes back to the Antifa, the Trantifa riots. When you are sitting in your car and there is a raging crowd, a raging mob threatening to take your life, or whether it's the Ayatollahs in Iran threatening to nuke America and Israel, and they chant it every day, the best thing you have, the best idea that you can come up with is to just believe them. What you do from that matter, like after that point, is going to be up to you, but you have to believe them. These are not people that value the Constitution. These are not people that value what the founders brought us. Strangely, the leftists and these radical Muslims, they have the same exact ideology. They think that the Constitution is just a living document, you know, just depends. You know, but here's what your media won't tell you. When you drop a 30,000-pound bomb into underground facilities, physics takes over. The overpressure alone would destroy everything inside. The seismic shock collapses tunnels. The heat melts the equipment. Even if some structures remain, it's like saying that the Titanic is mostly intact at the bottom of the ocean, or that riot was mostly peaceful. But Iran knows the truth. And that's why they agreed to the ceasefire just 48 hours later. You don't sue for peace when your one major card, the one card you have to play, is still in play. Their nuclear program is not in play. You sue for peace when you got caught with your pants down and got a spanking from daddy. And the same media calling this a limited strike would have called D-Day an afternoon at the beach. They're not interested in truth. They're interested in undermining Trump's victories. But physics doesn't lie. Bomb damage doesn't lie. And Iran's sudden interest in peace, that doesn't lie either, but it kind of does. They got caught with their pants down. Daddy bent them over the knee, gave them a nice spanking, and now he's ready to talk turkey. And believe me, all of us will be cradled in his ample bosom and held when the tears come. Now, if you got any value from this report, please tap subscribe. My final thought is next. You know, this isn't just about bombs and rubber baby bunker busters. It's about treason in our own government, in our own media. When CIA desk jockeys leak classified intel to help Iran and hurt Trump, that's not whistleblowing. That's sedition. That is treason. These people would rather see Iran get nukes than see Trump get credit for bringing about peace. They would rather risk World War III than admit that daddy has kept us safe. Every American should be infuriated right now. Our pilots executed a perfect mission, eliminated an existential threat, and came home in one piece. Instead of parades like they might have gotten 70 years ago, they get CNN calling them liars. Instead of medals, like they would have gotten 75 years ago, they get New York slimes minimizing their achievements. This is what the deep state does to patriots who actually serve their country. The leakers must be found, they must be charged, and they must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. No exceptions, no plea deals, maximum sentences. Do you think they would give our side any different treatment? Let me ask you, should leaking classified military intelligence carry the death penalty? Now, this is a tough question. You know, they used to do that when someone committed treason. It's not unheard of. Sound off in the chat. And make sure to support real journalism at our Next News merch shop. That's shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.